All right, you're live. Go ahead.
Okay, well, what I'm going to go over today is Windows Defender Credential Guard. And what Credential Guard does is it protects the passwords from being scraped from memory with tools like Mimikatz. And so this is in a domain environment. It won't do it for the local credentials, but we're really focused on defending the domain. And so traditionally, I'm not going to read all this here, but traditionally, secrets are just stored by the local security authority, just in memory, right? And so Credential Guard takes it up another level and creates a isolated LSA process, which actually stores those secrets. And so the traditional LSA will call it to get what it needs. So the isolated LSA is just, yeah, right here it says doesn't host any device drivers or nothing, only a very small subset of operating system binaries needed for security and nothing else. So it has one job to do and it does it, and it's called upon when needed. But that is what Defender Credential Guard is supposed to do, is to protect those credentials in memory, and that's what I'm going to show today. I went ahead and set up in a little sandbox environment here, a little domain. So I'll go quick over that. I got the domain controller right here. This is the computer name of the domain controller. And I have two Windows 10 machines. One is called Gen 1 and one is called Gen 2. So Gen 1 is no Credential Guard. Gen 1 is traditional BIOS. I should pull up system information while I go over this here. Let's see. So BIOS mode is legacy. UEFI mode is required for Credential Guard. The secure boot is also required. That's unsupported on this Gen 1 because it is in traditional legacy BIOS mode. And we can see here that the virtualization-based security services configured and running are nothing. It's blank. And so I'll look at Gen 2 just to show the difference here. I hope you can see the BIOS mode is UEFI, secure boot is on, and it is running Credential Guard. Okay, so that's the difference here. So we're going to show without and with Credential Guard what we can do. So this is all in a Hyper-V environment, and what I did was set up Kali Linux, actually in the Windows subsystem for Linux, and tied it into that Hyper-V environment. So I've pre-compiled these payloads just in the interest of time. So let's see if I can mark. Okay, so I'm using the MSF Venom to create the payload. It's a 64-bit interpreter reverse shell. This right here, lhost, is the Kali Linux VM, and I'm going to come back on port 4443 for the Gen 1, and I'll come back on 4444 for the Gen 2. So let me go ahead and set up a HTTP server, and I'm going to jump on over to those boxes, and I'll kind of leave that up so we can see. I have the command up already to transfer it. I'm in the temp directory, and I'm going to use PowerShell to invoke a web request to download the 4443 shell, and I'll just put it into the temp directory and rename it shell.exe. Okay, we can see here, I connected to the hacking machine over here on the right, and it got the shell successfully. And I'm going to go ahead and just download it also for the Gen 2, the one with Credential Guard. And right here, and it got both of those. So let's open the directory here. Temp, there's the shell that I just downloaded. Temp, and then there it is for Gen 2, Gen 1 and Gen 2. So now over here on my Kali machine, I need to move it up so we can see the bottom there. And I'm going to load Metasploit and use the multi-handler to receive the connection. So once this gets up, I'll get that loaded and configured, and then we will hit the ground running from there. There we go, starting Metasploit.
The name of your Kali box is Carl?
Carl, yeah. All right, cool. So use exploit multi handler. Okay, so I want to update the payload. So set payload Windows X to match the shells that are going to be coming in. Okay, let me actually get this bigger now so I can see it a little better. Options, let's see what we got to set in order for this to run. So lhost, I'll have to set the set lhost to the Kali machine. Set L port, I'll go ahead and show Gen 1 first. So I'll set the port to 4443. Options, just to verify. Okay, got my port, and this is the local host. So we're going to go ahead and run that listener. I'm going to pop over here to my Gen 1 machine and run that shell. And here we can see it's coming in. Interpreter session 1 open. Cool. So sysinfo will show here that we are Gen 1. We're on that machine. Get UID. And the user is Jasper. Now, since we're going to be going after credentials in memory, we're going to need system. So since it was run with administrative privileges, it's just as easy as get system, and it should just transfer over to system level access. Get UID. Okay, NT authority system. So we're good to go there. Nope, that's not going to work here. So we will go ahead and load Kiwi. And Kiwi is the module that we're going to use to scrape the credentials from memory. So help. Oh, there it is. So what we're going to use for simplicity, just creds all. It'll grab everything it can. Creds all. Okay. So what we can see here is right here. This is the terminal services credentials. Jasper is user count, password 01. That's a nice secure password, right? And we're going to scroll up a little bit and show that it is also getting the hash of that password. And so I'm going to jump over just to show you. I brought it up in crack station for simplicity. Here it is. Here's the hash that it sees, and it's for that password. So you could, in theory, use either one to traverse the network. So we have that. I want to show. I kind of wanted to show taking it to the next level. We have the user's credential, and we can go from there. But I wanted to bring up, I created a domain administrator just to show how dangerous this can really be, right? So this is the domain admins group, and I have a member called domain admin. And so I'm going to come over to Gen 2 and do a remote desktop connection over to Gen 1, just to show it doesn't have to come from the domain controller. But I'm going to go ahead and connect with that DA account. Okay, so this is the domain admin account. That's the DA is the username. So that's the domain administrator is the highest level of privilege you can get in the domain. So this is not credentials that we would want in the wrong hands, right? And so what's the scenario here? Someone social engineers a domain admin to a compromised machine. Hey, can you log in and fix this? My admin privileges aren't working. My local admin privileges, whatever it may be, aren't working. So the domain admin goes to log in, boom. And so I want to show here that we don't even have to get the full interactive session. So we've already authenticated to that machine with the domain admin credentials. I don't even have to get the full session. And we can see here DA, and here's his password. So without even getting to the desktop, the password is compromised. And so that's all we need with that. And I'm going to exit this and kind of show, kind of the next step, what we can do. And so we're going to use a module here in Metasploit to use psexec to then traverse the network and see and log into the domain controller with the domain admin account. So let me get this here. So we're gonna use exploit. PS exec. So no payload. So we're going to set payload again to Windows x64 interpreter reverse TCP. Set our options. So set L host to the Kali machine. L port is the local port's fine. We're going to set SMB user to DA. Set SMB pass to that password that we just stole. And we're going to run, set our hosts. We got to tell where the domain controller is. And now we're going to run that. So now we're taking the domain admin credentials and logging into the domain controller with that sys info. And this is the domain controller name. Get UID. We are system on the highest level on that machine. And so what we're going to do now is the end game, essentially. Dump the hash from the domain, the hashes from the domain controller. I'm going to go ahead and mark a few things. So if these are the hash passwords of kind of computer accounts. This is a test user I came up with just to show that it's getting them from the domain controller, not just users that we've been playing around with in the demo. iUser, I did that for innocent user, kind of joking around with that. And the domain administrator, Jasper, okay, administrator on the box. And the big one here is the KRBTGT. And so I'm not going to go into that in this demo, but if you want to go ahead and look that up, you go ahead and look up the golden ticket attack. And this is persistence on the domain. This is the end game, right? So the domain is absolutely owned, especially once they get this. And so this is extremely dangerous. And this all was possible because the credentials were scraped in clear text from memory. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and show what will happen with Credential Guard being enabled. Let's see if I can get back, make it easier. Options. So we got our here set L port. I'm just going to go over to the 4444, which was for the Gen 2. And I'm going to set that. And I'm going to hop on over to Gen 2, cancel that, and run this shell. So now we've connected back from the Gen 2 with the secure boot, with the UEFI, and ultimately with Credential Guard running. So get UI, get sys info, show here, I'm on Gen 2, get UID, the Jasper account. Okay, we know we need system level access in order to scrape those. So get system, fine. That's easy peasy because it's being run as local admin. Get UID, show that we are system. So now we're going to load up Kiwi and try the same exact attack. Everything is the same so far. The only difference is the protections on the machine. Creds all, and we'll see here. Edit so I can mark it. Kerberos credentials. Here's the Jasper user that was being run. Null password. Jasper, null password. We're coming up here to the hashes, the NT hashes. Jasper. So the user hash is not there. It is in this LSA isolated data. So this attack is now at a halt. They cannot go any further. So this is why it's so important to enable Credential Guard in a domain environment, because it prevents something like this. I mean, we just get a standard user account, but we can see how, especially with social engineering involved, we can really escalate quickly if we're able to scrape credentials from memory. And we get the right ones, and then we have the domain. And that concludes my demo. Are there any questions on the setup and how it was executed?
That was awesome. So by any chance, do you have the system internal tools on your two VMs by any chance?
I don't have those on there, but
Okay.
yeah, as far as that secondary movement, yeah,
Uh-huh.
for simplicity, I use the PS exec module within uh, Metasploit, but you could also use the PS exec from sysinternals itself and just use the username and password and get around there using that.
Yeah, so what I was interested in is to run something like their version of Process Explorer, and I wanted to see in your gen, in your more secure gen, what are the processes in the kernel for the different LSA process versus the one without Credential Guard,
Oh, shoot. Yeah,
right?
maybe
Yeah,
I'll load those up and do a part two
right. Yeah,
and kind of
yep,
dig into that. No, that's pretty cool. That's a good idea.
yeah.
Yeah, and so we were talking before it about Defender getting in the way, and I guess
Uh-huh.
I want to put this out here. I went ahead and squashed that just
Ooh.
for the demo here. I just
Uh-huh.
wanted to get rid of it so it's not in the way. And I went ahead and used group policy management, put in the default domain policy on all three of these Windows machines, and right here, turn off Windows Defender antivirus enabled. So I forced it off. So because before I did that, yeah, it was getting in the way. Any any shell, so the shell fine, and then I went into Defender settings and blessed the temp directory or whatever, so it wouldn't nab the shell. But as soon as the shell kicked on and tried to call back, it's like, whoa, 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 here's Meterpreter. Like, I'm not using any kind of obfuscation here. I'm just using the basic tools. Any AV is going to nab them in a heartbeat. I'm just, for the demo purposes of just showing the effectiveness of Credential Guard, that wasn't the thing. I wanted all the other variables taken care of, and so I just used group policy to turn off Defender antivirus on all these machines. But yeah, it would get any of this. So it would definitely nab these shells and get rid of them immediately. If somehow we got the shell blessed, as soon as it pops out and tries to make that connection, it'll squash that too. So I went ahead and just turned all that off with group policy.
Nice. That's a really good tip because yeah, I always run into that problem. And when I try to disable it just through the regular options, it's only limited for a limited time, and then the Windows will turn it back on, and it just kills me. So this is really cool. So I'm gonna have to start using these GPOs. So one question I did have though, in terms of you setting up UEFI in your VM, was that pretty straightforward?
That was not straightforward at all.
Okay, yeah. Can you
that,
share a
that was
little,
that was a
how to do
pain.
that?
So
Okay.
that was with Hyper-V, and let me
Uh-huh.
see if I can pull it up. Where is my Hyper-V environment? And you'll see that right here, hopefully you can see it. It's pretty small. When I download the Windows 10 evaluation copy, it comes in as Gen 1, which is basically legacy BIOS mode. And so this is, you can see that, and that's where I got the naming Gen 1 and Gen 2. Right, so you can see here the configuration is 8.0 for Gen 1, and Gen 2 it is 9.0. So what I actually had to do was create it as the Gen 1, and then I went out to the Googles and found the PowerShell commands to go ahead and convert it to a Gen 2 machine. And then get in and I'll show you the Credential Guard here. Let's see if I can find this. And then Credential Guard is how to manage Credential Guard. I came in using local group policy to go ahead and set up Credential Guard once I got it converted to the Gen 2, which is UEFI.
Ah,
So yeah, it's been a interesting learning experience working with Hyper-V and WSL2. I don't know. I just wanted to learn some new stuff and get fancy with it. You can find instructions out there for doing Kali on WSL2. It comes like as a very basic shell of a OS, and I actually had to install Python and Metasploit on the WSL2 in order to, so it doesn't come with all that. You can upgrade it to have all the fancy tools. I just wanted what I needed for the demo. So I downloaded that, installed those tools, and moved forward. And there was another learning experience because since it's the WSL2, it's actually creating files that my host OS is seeing and paying attention to. So once I did that and installed, so the Kali was fine, the Python was fine. As soon as I installed Metasploit, my local antivirus just started yanking files left and right. Oh my goodness gracious. So I went to go in and bless that directory and then reinstall Metasploit. I mean, it was It
Oh,
was some
geez.
trials and tribulations getting this set up, but it was pretty fun. Yeah,
Nice. Yeah, it's a good learning experience, you know.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took a lot of trickery to get these machines to work together. I'll tell you that. So thank the demo gods that they worked throughout the entire demo.
Nice. Awesome.